Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular work session of the Burnsville City Council to order. Our work sessions are very informal, so we go directly to the items that are on the agenda. But I want to let everybody know that tonight's meeting is conducted both in person and online. Members of the public may attend the meeting in person if they so please, or the public can also watch this meeting online at burnsvillemn.gov/meetings. They can also watch us on Comcast 16 or 859. The public can also join the meeting through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join. And more information about all of the items on the agenda for this evening is on the webpage and in the council agenda packet. So, welcome everyone. So our guests know who's all around the table. We're going to go around and introduce ourselves to everyone. I'll go to my right.
Thank you, Mayor. Greg Lindberg, City Manager.
Hello, Hugo McPhee, Deputy City Manager.
Kara Schultz, City Council.
Dan Keeley, City Council.
Jeff Thompson, Community Development Director.
Mark Ray, Public Works Director.
Chelsea Bell, the Costco GM.
Mike Stratus, Real Estate Consultant at Costco.
Larry Jurczyk, Real Estate Consultant with Costco.
Bethany Brewer, Strategic Initiatives.
Jenny Rohde, Deputy City Manager and CFO.
Mike Tracy, HR Director.
Vince Workman, City Council.
Dan Gustafson, City Council.
Michelle Collins, City Clerk.
Elizabeth Couts, Mayor, and I'm going to go to our guests Luther
Wander, MBTA.
Grace Almeida, MBTA. Joya Stetson, also MBTA.
Okay, and the back row.
Chad Bertrand, Costco Wholesale Assistant General Manager.
Okay, welcome everybody. And so the first item on the agenda is the Costco sketch plan review. Our Community Development Director, Jeff Thompson, is going to tee up this particular item and introduce our guests. Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you introduced, this is a sketch plan review for Costco, and we'll walk through a little their conceptual plans that they're proposing to the council. Just to start, the sketch plan process is a thing we do that's earlier in the development application review process. It precedes any sort of formal development application where we have detailed design and engineering plans, and is really to kind of focus on the policy considerations of a development application prior to the applicant kind of proceeding with the application and developing those full design plans. As such, the council doesn't make any decisions or take any formal action tonight. But we are, as we'll talk about, requesting some feedback, or requesting you provide feedback not only to Costco, but also feedback and direction to staff on one of the major policy items, which is the sale of some city-owned property for the conceptual plans that are being presented tonight. I'll quickly walk through the project and the components of it. So just to frame the ownership, obviously the main Costco warehouse property is located at Burnhaven Drive, McAndrews, and 141st Street. Last year, they closed on the Pumpkin Patch property on the southeast corner of 140th Street and Burnhaven Drive. And so they own that property today, and that was the site of the previous development application that you reviewed last year. And then the third site that we're looking at tonight is the property immediately to the east of the Pumpkin Patch, and that's the former fire station property that remains in the ownership of the city. So these are the three parcels under consideration for this project. The concept plans include four major components. The first is that they would propose to purchase the city property of the former fire station, and then they would construct a new gas station on that property, which provides about 16 gas pumps, which is an increase from the current 9 pumps that they have on the warehouse property. So that's the first component. The second is then they would remove or demolish the existing gas station from the warehouse property and then convert that existing area to parking stalls. And that adds about 93 additional parking stalls on the principal Costco property. Third, they would then still include to use that pumpkin patch property by demolishing that existing building and adding about a 50-stall satellite parking stall for employees. And then the fourth component is the plans now include a signalized intersection at 140th and Burnhaven, that existing entrance, not only from a traffic operations standpoint for improving the traffic operations, but also to provide safer pedestrian crossings across across Burnhaven for the employees that are utilizing that remote parking. This is just a zoom in on the east side of Burnhaven Drive, showing the concept of the satellite parking stall and the gas station. The thing to note, first, we haven't done any detailed engineering review or traffic analysis of this yet. We're still early. But the important thing to note on here is it retains the existing cell tower. The city has a lease agreement with AT&T for that existing cell tower, so it retains that tower in its existing location, and then just adds a new service lot and service access drive for the service vehicles of that existing tower structure. We haven't gotten into detailed conversations with the leaseholder for that, nor Costco, of how that could work if we sell the property. There are a number of options that the city could certainly look at. I think the main policy consideration for the council is, again, just focused on whether you want to pursue us to work with them on a land sale. In terms of zoning, the city-owned property, the former fire station, would need to be rezoned to mixed use. That property is actually zoned park today, and that's consistent with other city facilities, other fire stations, city facilities, city hall, which have that park designation. So it would need to be rezoned to mixed use to be consistent with the gas station use. And then, as before with the previous application, the satellite parking lot does require a planned unit development approval for a principal use of a lot to be a parking lot. So in terms of zoning application for the development review, these are the primary things we're looking at. The council has an adopted policy on the disposition of city property, and we have reviewed that. There are really three options that our existing policy allows us to pursue when we're selling property. The first is a direct negotiated sale with an interested party. The second is a request for proposals, and the third is to just do like a posting that the property is for sale. There are constraints to all three of these in kind of directly working with Costco on it. So depending on the council's feedback and direction tonight on it, I think the first step we would recommend if the council wants to pursue this is we first look at the land sale policy to ensure it's consistent with, from a strategy standpoint, how we want to be approaching land sales across the city and across all properties. Make sure it's up to date and consistent with our strategy going forward. And then we would use that to apply in our negotiations and discussions with Costco. Again, we're early in this in terms of the cell tower piece, but we think there are primarily three options. Again, should the council want to pursue the land sale, of how we deal with the cell tower. Certainly we could maintain the ownership on a separate parcel. There's an ability to do a land lease to us for the tower structure, and certainly we would have the potential to talk to Costco and negotiate potentially the sale of the tower rights and the existing lease. There's many considerations for each of these, both certainly obviously what in talking to Costco, but we just want to frame that we have early looked at this, and if we continue with the land sale discussions with Costco, we would come back to the council with options on each of these. So with that, the primary considerations for the council tonight are, do you want us to pursue a land sale with Costco for the former fire station? And then any comments or feedback you have on kind of the plans and consistency with our adopted comprehensive plan. So with that, I know we have the project team here tonight that has a couple slides if you have, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you. And thank you so much for coming back and listening and hearing and moving in the direction that we think that is safe for everybody and also meets your goals and objectives. So the floor is yours. I think,
Well,
Larry.
thank you, Mayor. Again, my name is Larry Jurczyk, Costco Real Estate Consultant, and with me is Mike Stratus, who you've all met. Mike was involved in the original deal with the warehouse. And so I think Jeff did a really excellent presentation tonight. I don't want to repeat anything he discussed, but really our plan consists of 3 or 4 main considerations. One is the traffic signal. I'm not even sure if this mic is on. It may be?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, yeah.
I can't tell. The traffic signal at 140th and Burnhaven. The second component, of course, is a satellite employee-only parking, which we could talk a little bit about later. And then the third component is the relocation of the gas. And as a consequence of the relocation of the gas, shouldn't really use the word consequence, but really a positive is the addition of about 93 parking spaces that Costco desperately needs for their members. And I think the last time we all met, we talked a little bit about parking counts and parking utilization, and we had our traffic consultant. We don't want to get into that detail today. But Jeff and Deb had recommended that we meet before the city council and staff to talk about this in an informal setting, and we thought it was a great idea. Of course, the one policy decision that has to be made is how we purchase and how we arrange a sale for the property. Without the sale, the plan will not work, of course. So with that, we would be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the city council and see what they say. So members of the council, Costco has gone back to the drawing board with our staff and have come back with a plan to move forward that also meets your parking needs and also the safety and safety and health needs that we needed to have addressed. So Councilmember Workman had his hand up first, and then I'll go to Councilmember Gustafson. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for taking some of our feedback and coming back. Is this proposed satellite parking lot intended for members and employees?
No, it's not. Just employees.
Just employees.
Just employees.
I would be curious if that would be something that we would have to put into a formal agreement, because I would hate to see carts going across that street at any point in the future. Has the neighboring properties added any input into this at all? Have they been made aware of it? Are there concerns about traffic building on Burnhaven? Or is that yet to come?
Jeff, I think that's.
Was that directed to Jeff?
I guess whoever's willing to
Yeah.
answer.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we have not done any formal notification of the surrounding neighborhood yet, just because we're early. Certainly as part of our standard review process, should they apply and move forward, we would provide full notification to all surrounding property owners about the project and allowing comment.
Okay. And then, I guess the last question is what would be the implications of stacking, I guess in either direction, back into the existing lot or further down, back to McAndrews? Dan was just saying that sometimes, the stacking can get as far back to McAndrews, cars waiting to turn in. Is this light intended to alleviate some of that? Or can that exacerbate this if those lights aren't timed, to handle the traffic that already exists?
Yeah, it's not going to stack in. Yeah, Jeff?
Mayor and Councilmember Workman, can I clarify, are you talking about stacking on the warehouse property on the west side?
I guess on all sides, either whether it be within the Costco existing parking lot that is in Costco now, all four parameters or corners.
Certainly, Mayor
Yes,
and
Jeff.
Council. So certainly, if the project moves forward, we would do, as we did with the last project, a traffic study for the project to make sure that things like that are completely addressed. I know Mark and I have discussed the early site plan concepts, particularly for the gas station, knowing that the stacking at the existing gas station is a problem and comes out onto the public street, impacting both Burnhaven and even McAndrews. There's certainly substantially more stacking available on this plan than there is on the existing plan, in addition to the almost doubling the number of pumps. So it could certainly help from an operational standpoint. But should the project move forward, those are things we will certainly look at in more detail to ensure that any sort of adverse impacts of traffic or stacking are addressed in the signal timing and the site plan as it moves forward.
Okay. Because my concern is in that we're feeding more cars in, in front of Kohl's. where they may not have been there before with the additional pumps and everything else. So obviously, there's a lot to uncover here, but when we discussed this the first time, my main concern was sending pedestrians across that road at, Saturday afternoon before Thanksgiving, and risking somebody getting injured or even killed at that intersection. I will say, I have to give Landon Anderson a shout out. I graduated with Landon, and he's a manager at the store, and I bumped into him this weekend and talked to him a little bit about this, and he did express the need for this. So I appreciated his insight into this, so I just wanted to give him a little public nod for giving me a little bit more inside information as far as his perspective on everything. So that's all I have right now.
Okay, Dan?
I do appreciate you coming back with the stoplight. That was one of my big concerns in this whole project. And as I've looked at this, and I see what you're going to do with the gas station, and you're actually going to have better access because you can come in from Aldridge and from Burnhaven to get into your gas station. Not all traffic will be on Burnhaven as it is today. And I get to your store a fair amount, and I know there's traffic that backs up onto McAndrew right now. So getting those 93 spots in, that's the biggest problem, is that turn in there to get into the gas station. That's what's causing all the stacking. I don't think I don't see the stacking is going to be as bad going up and down Burnhaven itself, going to that other gas station, but
Yeah.
we'll see. I do think having Aldridge as another entrance to it is going to help out a lot in that. And having those extra pumps will certainly help. So you guys have done your diligence on this, and I think it's a win for Costco, and it's certainly a win for the city.
Okay. Kara, Dan, Kay?
So, good on the gas pumps and all that kind of stuff, but my question last time is the same one I have this time on the proposed employee lot.
Yeah.
It's not just that you're having people cross, it is that they cross, go all the way down,
Not anymore.
all the way around, back up the building, and then in. When if people cross and they say to themselves, it's 20 below and windy, there is no way in hell I'm walking around. I'm gonna cut across. I'm just gonna scoot on down that embankment, which is just not a good idea. Like, that would not be good decision-making, but, and the fact that we've discussed that before as a challenge and a concern, and that is still not addressed.
You want to address that?
I have concerns on that.
Yeah. So I'm going to welcome Chelsea. She's the new GM. Yay, a new woman GM. And the youngest woman GM at Costco. Okay. Larry, you want to answer that question, because I think you already have an answer for that.
Well,
That would be great.
Well, I do, because I do remember we
Yes.
talked about this quite extensively last year.
Yes.
So as we pointed out, it's for employees only. And Chelsea could maybe elaborate a little bit about how the parking lot today is being used and what she's done during the holiday season and during times of extreme busyness, for lack of a better term, on
Right.
weekends. She has implemented a shuttle bus. Her employees are not walking.
Yeah.
Nobody, I believe, has made the walk. But who's to count out or say that on a nice day that employee may not want to take a stroll? We're providing a very safe crosswalk across Burnhaven 140th. But Chelsea has committed with the shuttle service. Chelsea, did you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Yes, so we did give that a trial run this last holiday period where we had employees park over in the pumpkin patch area, and we shuttled them every time, and it worked out really well, actually. If the employees got dropped off right at the front of the building, so they appreciated it and enjoyed it. I agree, and I don't want that for my employees either, to have to make that walk, especially during winter time. So during holidays, shuttle, it's just for those, peak busy days where, we think we're gonna hit $1 million, that we would have that overflow employee parking over there. Like he's saying, on the nice days, if they choose to park over there, summertime, springtime, and they wanna make the safe walk across, I guess that would be on them. But during peak holiday season, wintertime, we'll shuttle the employees over for their safety and for their security.
Okay, if I can ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
So just to make sure that I understand the plan that you have, employees can park there anytime they wish. If it's not a peak time, though, they could park in the regular lot.
Yes.
If it's a peak time where you are asking employees, please use that extra lot because we need our main lot, we're providing a shuttle. That is the action plan, correct?
Yes, we have a sales plan, and so we can project which days those are going to be. We post that information up, we make it clear to everybody, we arrange ahead of time for the shuttle.
Then that works.
Yeah. Chelsea's done a nice job. Dan, Kay, you have any questions or?
Councilmember Schultz addressed the path for employees in the winter because that, what is it, 140th that dumps out into Burnhaven.
That was a big concern for all of us.
And the entrance right is down there, and there's no current sidewalk for pedestrians to make their way down that hill at this point in time because of the embankment, the grade. And it's a long, good, healthy walk all the way around. And on nice days, that'd be great. In winter, in heavy rainstorms. In the spring and fall, when there's a heavy rainstorm, is your shuttle option on demand where you can bring it in to allow them to not have to? My fear was similar to Kara's, and that is they'll cut across the street. They'll cross at the crosswalk and then just walk their way down that embankment, taking, as we all do, the shortest path from point A to point B. We're going to take it, and then cut across. Come through the parking lot. Is that entrance where 140th dead ends into Burnhaven, where you have that entrance there? Is that, in your mind, a safe path for employees to come down in traffic when there's no sidewalk?
So we've actually just initiated the process to start having our employees go through our front door. We rewired it. We're setting up a system so that it's a closer point of access and they can come in through the front door versus going all the way around to the back receiving area.
Gotcha. And I actually didn't know, because I'm looking at a map and I didn't realize you even had an employee back door. I thought everybody was coming through the front door. You've addressed winter and peak times, no problem. What happens in a torrential downpour? And employees are on a busy day, right? So employees are parking across the street. Do you think they're going to beeline down the entrance embankment to be able to cut over to the front doors instead of walking all the way around?
I do see what you're saying, and we can definitely look at options and ensure that we have a backup plan in those situations.
Okay. Umbrellas are not that big a deal, but we have some high winds and heavy rain sometimes, and it can be pretty soaking for an employee to go from there to there to get inside the building. But outside of that, I really, I'm in support of the plan. I'm delighted that you're, as the whole city is a regular shopper at Costco, delighted you're putting this plan in place, both for the gas station and for general parking. I think that your parking lot is like a Petri dish test case on how traffic slows down when there's pedestrian. It's become a pedestrian-friendly parking lot because there's just so much traffic and there's so many people walking. You can't go more than 4 or 5 miles an hour because it's just the nature of the beast. It's like why we narrow some streets down to slow people down. I also wanted to note, thank you for putting your cones up and across the front door. That was the one point that always made me very nervous. Even driving through there, I was creeping super slow. And still, it was a challenge to navigate the cross traffic of pedestrians. And I thought, wow, this is probably the busiest intersection in the whole city, is your front door to cross that drive path to get into the parking lot. And so the cones going up recently, I thought was a very smart idea. Great. Anyway, overall, great project, love it. Glad you're investing more in that store. And congratulations on your position.
Thank you.
And do you want to, you're going to address the other questions as far as like
Yeah.
the sale
Well,
of the
Yeah,
tower and all that kind of stuff? Okay.
yeah. But first of all, I really want to congratulate you and thank you. Truly grateful, because you listened real well. You put up a traffic light. That wasn't in the first plan. So you were really addressing all of the issues that have to do with what we were concerned about, and that had to do with the safety of your employees, also the health and comfort in that, in coming from the satellite parking over to the store. And then thank you for the shuttle, because that's very nice. That helped with all of that. And I think you accomplished a lot more with regard to your parking capacity by moving the gas station over to the new area. And now you have a lot more parking. And I think with that, did you meet your 144 stalls that you need with both the employee parking and also with the parking spaces at the new gas station? I think you got all of that,
Mayor,
right?
you're correct.
Yeah.
Right. It's about 143.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Just remember those numbers from
Good memory.
from the first time around. So I really appreciate that you all worked very well. You listened and you're back, because the option was also looking at that city land that would help, and also moving the gas station, because I'm also a Costco member, and I buy my gas from Costco, and that's, Chelsea and I were talking, because I said, this way, the backup, because sometimes it depends on when you go, and I always try to figure out when's the best time that I don't have to be standing in line. But it's a good problem for Costco. I mean, that's selling a lot of gas. But now you're adding more pumps, and I think that's going to also relieve a lot of that congestion as well. So you really listened well, and I appreciate that, and I want to say thank you.
Speaking for
Mike.
Costco, I appreciate that. This is very gratuitous, but, we met last time, we listened to you, but it was very easy to listen to you because your points were really valid. And, the original plan here was to maybe spend $1.5 million to park out the pumpkin patch. But after we heard all the concerns and we digested it with our client, it became very clear very quickly that you were absolutely correct on all this. And for us, it's all about safety. So if I were to balance this, it's 80% safety for our members and our employees and 20% to allow us to grow our business over the years. That's how I would balance the decision-making based on my discussions with senior execs. And moving gas, I don't have the exact number, maybe Larry does, but I think it's about $12 million for us to take that gas station and move it across the street. And this is assuming some reasonable value for your property. So it's a big undertaking, but there was never any resistance from my client to spend that money because they fully subscribed to the safety argument.
Well, Mike, you did a good job back then when we were working on this, and at the same time, it was just fortuitous that Grossman Chevrolet was available.
And the Cadillac.
But if you remember, it took us, 5 years to get to that point?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes. Yeah, so when Costco's open, they always have a banner in the building that says, coming soon to wherever, like Burnsville. And that banner hangs in Eden Prairie. And in my garage at home, I have the opening soon Burnsville. And, and I have a lot of those, but I only have a couple that were tough, but it was a long ordeal. And again, our client's very grateful. We love being in the community and we do very well, and we've been embraced. So.
Okay. Council, policy consideration, we can sell it to Costco. It's been sitting there for 3-4 years. It's been sitting there, haven't no bites, so, Councilmember, yes, sell it to Costco. Dan, Kay?
Yes, my only concern is process, because it's sort of a closed sale, because the land's been sitting empty, but we haven't had a sign for sale. We haven't advertised it unless it has. If you can update me, have we publicly made it for sale? since it's,
Yeah. Jeff?
Mayor, council, we wanted to have this meeting first to get the policy direction from the council on the land sale. As a next step, we think we need to update the city's land sale policy, not just for this project, but for all disposition of land sales going forward to make sure it's consistent with the strategic direction the council wants to take on all land sales. And certainly then we would proceed, based on the council's direction, with a negotiation with Costco. The assumption here is that we are selling it for the fair market value as negotiated between the city and Costco.
Yeah. And the other thing is that if my memory serves me correctly, we don't have a lot of land. That I think a lot of it has already been sold, or else they're just easements. Am I correct, Greg? And you think about
Madam Mayor, members of the council, it is a question that we are actively working on answering. It has been a fairly significant undertaking. It's my understanding that staff has identified about 430 publicly owned, city-owned parcels throughout the community. We're currently working on inventorying those properties and categorizing them. So I don't have a good answer right now on surplus property.
Okay, now, is this land all about parkland that you're, or I'm just talking about random parcels?
And that's, Madam Mayor, we have approximately 430 city-owned parcels.
Random parcels?
Everything that the city owns, Mayor.
Oh, everything that the city owns?
We are currently working to understand what of those parcels might be categorized or identified as surplus or having a non-identified use. So that's a project that's underway. You'll actually start to see that as one of our capital studies that we'll be talking more about through the budget process. So, short answer is not quite sure on the specifics of the numbers, but no, from everything that I have at this point in time, I don't believe that there are a significant number of surplus properties in that total.
I think Hugo and I identified 3 during our tour of parks.
That is correct.
They were all up under parkland. But otherwise, I didn't think that there was a lot of random parcels. So that's to answer your question, how many do we have? But if
I
we
didn't
change
ask
the
that question.
policy, huh?
I didn't ask that question.
No, it's the policy question, if we just do the sale with Costco, do we have to do the same with every other parcel?
Well, it's really just about good government transparency. I mean, I'm love this project. I would like to just sell to them, but I don't want to follow a picking winners and losers process of bad government where we have a closed sort of, hey, we're just going to sell to them because they're here and they have this plan when we haven't made it available to the, entire commercial public. Let's put it that way. Whether it's posted for 30 days or whatever that process needs to be, I think that's the process we need to follow. So I don't want to be criticized for.
No, I get it.
Just picking the person who's going to buy the property without it being open for sale to all commercial developers, right?
Well, and I think what we need to do, if it's, what that process is, at 30 days that we put the process on the land on the market and to see what happens. And then we proceed with the land sale. Any objections to that? Dan G?
I have a question. Has this land not been for sale?
It's been for sale.
No, it's.
We haven't put it up for sale. We just said that we were going to
anything.
sell it.
So we never put it out there, it was ever for sale then?
Yeah. Jeff?
Mayor and council, no, we have not been actively marketing or listing this property as being for sale.
Okay, so it's not on our list of anything that we would have out there for anybody to buy?
Mayor and council,
Like other
no.
properties we have on our website?
Mayor and council, it's certainly included in the larger inventory we're doing, but in terms of properties we are actively marketing for sale, this is not included in that list.
Okay.
That's why I brought the concern up. It's like, unlike the AAA property, which had a sign for sale for several years, this one, we closed the fire station. It's been sitting vacant. There's been no, that I'm aware of, and you just confirmed what I was already aware of. So I just feel like it becomes sort of a proprietary closed sale when we just sell to somebody when it was never marketed. I don't think that's what we normally do anyway. So I just want to follow
Is
the
that a
normal
policy
process.
thing or a
for it.
state statute thing?
No, policy. Can you go back to
Jeff,
your,
I'm asking
your
Jeff the question, please.
first, yeah,
Just trying to tell you why I'm bringing it up.
So,
Okay.
Mayor and Council, I can tell you what our current policy says. These are the three options that we
Yeah.
have for how we can sell property. Quick summary of each: negotiated sale is a direct negotiation with one potential buyer of a property.
Yeah.
And we can only do that if there is no other interest or no other interested parties, or we're not aware of other people being interested in a property. We don't believe this situation meets that requirement. The second is a request for proposals, and that's where we put it out publicly. The current policy requires us to publish all terms and conditions in that RFP in that land sale transaction. So all terms and conditions become public. It's essentially negotiated in a public posting of an RFP. The third is maybe what's been referenced on past land sales. There's a third option, just to post a for sale sign on the property for a certain duration of a period of time. So that's what our current policy says. There are benefits and drawbacks to this approach on any land sale, and so we're not proposing to take one approach or one strategy just with Costco because they're asking for the sale. What we're asking is we come back with an amendment to the land sale policy for all land sales, consistent with what the council wants to take from a policy direction of selling property. We will do that first to make sure it's consistent with the council direction, and then certainly proceed into any sort of talks with Costco, consistent with that new and amended policy should the council do that.
members of the council, what do you want to do, a 30-day marketing of the property and to see if there's any other interest?
I would go with Jeff's recommendation that they bring back a policy for us to work, and then this becomes part of that, along with all other properties.
Okay. When can you do that? I mean, you can work with Costco and see where they're at with all of that in terms of their development. Jeff?
Certainly, yeah. We will certainly obviously connect with Costco, Mayor, and Council on this, keep them apprised of the timelines, and bring something back to you as soon as we practically can. For, again, starting with the policy adoption for a revised land sale policy.
Okay. All right.
I'm okay proceeding, but I do want to hear from the neighboring properties, and I know we will, but I still worry about the influx of traffic in that area.
Yeah, I think that comes with the development agreement.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Anything else that you need now that you have direction with regard to the land sale?
Mayor, not for me.
Okay.
we
Members
know
of the council,
Time
and you like
limit?
the plan? Kara?
Do we know a time limit line of when you would be coming back with that policy?
Mayor and Council, I don't have an explicit time period. I think we can get that before you in the next couple months. I don't think it should take long for us to get that policy back before you. But we'll certainly talk with Costco on their timing and moving forward with the project. If there's implications in that, we can certainly.
Yeah, because we need to make that decision, and then you have to either post, in the market and see what it is for 30 days. So the sooner you can get it to us, the sooner we can get that out. Yeah, Kara?
Follow-up question, and this would be directed. When are you looking at breaking ground?
So we don't have the ability to break ground this year. So in a perfect world, we'd break ground in April or May after the winter thaw. So, and we'd open next year. I'll also tell you that, what we've seen Costco do in these sorts of situations in the past is we are perfectly willing to stipulate to an appraised value. So if the community wanted to order an MAI appraisal, which is a professional designation from the Appraisal Institute, and appraisers who have an MAI have to have, I think, 15 years of experience and have done 2,000 appraisals, we would agree to pay that. And that's the simple way. The alternative is you could develop a policy, which I think you should do. I think it's a great idea in fairness. But then if you go to request for a proposal and nobody else bids, and I bid $10, then you don't necessarily get the best value. And this is what happened in my own community when we considered a land sale policy. And so that's just something for you to think about. We're agnostic. We want to buy the property. We want to pay you for what it's worth. And we want you to tell us what it's worth, and we'll stipulate to that. So.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay? So the direction then to staff is come back with a policy as soon as possible, because with that policy, then we put it on the market and so forth, and if it's 30 days, it's 30 days. And then, so what's the next policy question that you want from us? Well, we like the plan.
Yes.
Yeah. So the first one is get the policy. The second is that, and also there's a sketch plan consistent with the 2040, and it does. When you look at the 2040 plan and what it addresses, it does. So one of the big things that I looked at with regard to the 2040 plan, comprehensive plan, is that it's the creative and efficient use of the land. And so it meets that, and it's at the same time, it protects and promotes the health, safety, and comfort, aesthetics, economic viability, and general welfare of the city. So it does all of that from the comprehensive plan. And so for me, it meets what we had adopted for our comprehensive plan. So that's what that is.
I agree,
Yes.
and how many times in the last 20 years that some of us, or 30 years almost, have been sitting here where we have a plan to expand parking as opposed to shrink parking. This is such an overwhelming successful store that they have to spend millions of dollars to move a gas station and add more parking. Where just across County Road 42, they could do a tarmac swap of shrinking over there and growing over here. It hasn't often happened where we've had a business come in and say, we need more parking. It's usually 9 out of 10, it's the other way around. With today's e-commerce, et cetera. And Costco is obviously a very successful e-commerce, and yet the brick and mortar business is incredibly healthy.
Yeah, and thank you, because your business helps drive a lot of traffic to the city. So thank you. Yeah. Okay, so everybody likes the sketch plan, so,
Yes.
okay. And thank you for the traffic light. And also for moving the gas station, and you now have your parking capacity that you needed.
That's great.
Yeah, great. Anything else that we're missing with this, Jeff?
Mayor, not from staff.
Okay, so thank you so much. Continue to work with Jeff, and we'll proceed and get it done. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you for flying in, Mike.
Thank you for everyone's
Thank
time.
you. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why is there shag carpeting on the ceiling? I've been obsessing over this for 10
does.
minutes.
It's the 70s, baby.
It's an acoustic
It's a great-
dampening something. Yeah, it does look like it, right?
Thank you for adding some new items to your food court. Those chocolate chunk cookies,
Aren't they amazing?
unbelievable,
Yeah.
served warm.
There's gonna be new bakery stuff coming, new deli stuff coming.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you, Chelsea, at the store. Yeah.
Maybe next time you're in.
Yeah, okay, take care. I'll do it. I'll do this. Mark and Joya, who's going to tee it up?
Just
Joy?
really quickly, Mayor, good evening, Mayor, council members, as we
Yeah.
discussed.
I'm going to, I just wanted to check.
No worries.
So the next item here is the County Road 42 Bus Rapid Transit study, and our Public Works Director, Mark Ray, is going to tee it up and then introduce our guest to give us the report.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I had a phone conversation a few months ago with Matt discussing kind of what's in the hopper for MBTA coming up on the horizon. And this bus rapid transit study is kind of the biggest thing they have coming down the chute here in Burnsville, and so we want to take the opportunity to bring them in to update you all on the process, and kind of really focus in on some of the public engagement that's going to be happening and look for ideas from you all to help with that process. So with that, I'll turn over to Joya from MBTA.
Yeah, and welcome, Luther, because it was Grace and Joya that was in the background, but not you, but welcome. It's good to see you. You very seldom come in.
Right, well, we're going to talk about some introductions first, and thank you guys for having us this evening. I think we can say evening now at this point. So I'm Luther Winder, CEO of Minnesota Valley. I'm joined by Joya Stetson, who was our Planning and Public Engagement Manager. Well, Outreach Manager, let me say. I don't give her a new title, not just yet. And we have Grace Amita, who is our Senior Transit Planner. So a couple of things we'll do before we dive right into the 42 study. I'll give you an overview about where we are at as an agency. I always like to set the ground stage because I understand not everyone's always familiar with what we are at MBTA and what we do. We were founded in 1990. We do operate, obviously, express, local, reverse commute, and on-demand, which we consider to be Connect service. We're the second largest transit entity in the state of Minnesota. I always give the joke that we're striving to be number one, but we got to do about 50 million more trips and we'll get there. So give us about 150 years.
You mean we beat Southwest?
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Our biggest competitor, and they might take us this year, I think, is Duluth. Duluth is.
When Shakopee came and joined us rather than going to the Southwest.
That's been a great thing for us. We love them. We have about 171 buses. We got 23 to 24 routes. I'll talk a little bit about the routes that are specific to Burnsville. 7 parking rides, 2 transit stations, and 2 bus garages. So one of our bus garages is actually our Burnsville bus garage in Burnsville. Our snapshot of 2023, we did about almost 1.3 million trips. That's about 50% of our ridership pre-pandemic. That's what the region sees, as well as what we're seeing from a national standpoint. But there's good news. We'll definitely be above that for 2024, which I'll highlight in a little bit. We do almost 4,000 boardings, a day. We have about 723 platform hours hourly each weekday, and about over 70,000 platform miles every single weekday. A little bit about the service that does serve Burnsville, because we always throw route numbers out, and people always, want to make sure everyone understands that. So we have a couple of different express routes. We have the 460, the 465, the 480 that serve Burnsville. Those routes either go to Minneapolis or St. Paul, respectively. We have our suburb to suburb, which is our For Fun service, which just started. We started last month. That services Burnsville Transit Station. It goes to Egan Outlet Mall, Valley Fair when Valley Fair is open, Canterbury, as well as terminates at Mystic Lake Casino. Done very well. That's a route we say fluctuates between 23 and 24. It's seasonal right now, but it's done so well for us. There's talks in the future to make that a year-round service for us. We have our Route 495, which I'm sure we're familiar with. That's our suburb to suburb route. That's also serves Burnsville Transit Station. That goes to Marshall Road. It has branches, what I call them. One branch going to Mystic Lake Casino. The other branch going sometimes to Amazon. So that's our employer. That's really an employee and entertainment based route for us. That accounts for it used to account for almost 5% of our total ridership. That route does extremely well for us. And we have some local services. Our Orange Link service, which please report within the last it's been the last year. It does now serve the Walmart in Burnsville, which is one very well requested. It's always good when we get Walmart to let us serve the door, so we serve the door there. That's been very beneficial for us, increased some ridership. Our local routes 442, our 444, which is our local service that goes to Mall of America, and then as well as in Burnsville Burnsville Center, 444, and our 447 that also serves Burnsville Transit Station, Burnsville Center, and has trips that go to Mystic Lake Casino. And we didn't put it on here, but our Connect service, that's our on-demand micro-transit service that all serves the majority of the city of Burnsville. Snapshot of ridership, and we'll dive right into the 42, what we came here to talk about. Just a little bit of what we've seen. Overall, when it comes to our ridership, it's about 24% increase between 2022 to 2023. Burnsville, as a city, your routes grew about 21%. So you're right in line with us from a system-wide perspective. Our express service from year over year was up 25%, local service up 22%, and our Connect service is up 26%. One of our Our 444 growth has been about 18%, which is really good for us, but the weekends, was about 50%, 57% growth between 2022 and 2023. And what we've seen across the board is a really increase in our weekend level ridership, a historic increase in weekend ridership. We continue to see, as we have this transit population that wants to travel and works non-traditional work hours, they are continuing to utilize our services, demanding more weekend service. So that's been a good problem for us to have, and our challenge now is making sure we have enough buses. We have the buses, making sure we have enough hours in order to serve those customers. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll turn over to Grace, who's going to give an update on the BRT study.
Yeah, so a little bit about the Bus Rapid Transit study. If you're not familiar with what Bus Rapid Transit is, it's essentially a suite of transit enhancements, sort of built out stations, a step above our traditional stop signs and shelters, and it ultimately provides a faster, more efficient trip for riders and just an overall enhanced customer experience. So you can see in the images here and the features some of what they have. So real-time departure signage for riders, bike parking amenities, additional maps and wayfinding, security features, heated shelters, additional benches, ticket machines as well, and then trash receptacles, and then in some cases near larger transit stations, parking as well. And a note on the ticketing and the fares for BRT. So this is a fare system that is regionally set by the Met Council. So riding on BRT would be the same as riding on a local route. And then in terms of implementing BRT and how it can be tailored to the context of a certain corridor, there's a couple different options. It can be mixed traffic along with the other cars. It could be dedicated lanes for the BRT route itself, business access transit lanes, highway, high occupancy vehicle lanes, and then off-road dedicated guideway are all options for BRT. So getting into the goals of the study and the background of this, so County Road 42 is a corridor in the service area, east to west, and it's been identified in previous transit studies over the years and regional planning efforts to potentially have BRT in this corridor. So that's how this study kind of came about. And the overall purpose is to essentially identify a feasible and community-based route alternative for implementing in this corridor, and then use this study ultimately to guide decision-making and next steps for this service. And there's a variety of benefits that come with implementing BRT. You can see kind of spelled out on the slides here, but increased access to jobs, activity centers, economic development, transit-oriented development, pedestrian safety improvements, and just an overall enhanced experience for our customers. So getting into the core alignment and the alternative alignment from the study. So the alignment here is essentially the route that it would be taking. And you can see in orange, that's the core alignment, and then the dotted part would be the alternative. And ultimately, the study focuses on the central portion of the County Road 42 corridor, where there's more jobs, higher levels of activity, and really where we can see the most potential benefit for a bus rapid transit line. So you can see on the west side, it connects Mystic, Lake Casino, and then Apple Valley Transit on the eastern end, so a lot of our high activity destinations there. And then you can see the alternative alignment with the dotted line. So that includes Fairview Ridges Hospital. And this alternative to Fairview is the leading candidate so far based on a lot of the outreach and engagement that we've done as part of this study. But overall, more will be known about the full ridership and the cost estimates as we complete this study in the next few months. Then getting into the stations that you see here denoted with the dots. So these stations are following the regional transitway guidelines for bus rapid transit. So typically a quarter mile to a half mile for the spacing. However, you can see there's some areas where that might not be as appropriate, places where there might be less dense areas. So kind of on that western side going into Scott County would be that larger spacing. And the stop stations were also based upon our existing route, 447 and 442. They both travel along County Road 42. So 447 is essentially a sort of precursor to this BRT route, and then the BRT route would come in to kind of take up that service. And then the station siting is also related to existing areas overall of activity and development, and then connecting into those regional lines and facilities so people can travel throughout the region. And then finally, the span of service the study calls for is 5 a.m. to midnight, bi-directional, and 7 days a week. And the study will ultimately determine more details on what this will look like and the final recommendations. And I'll hand it over to Joya.
We'll just keep passing it around.
Great. Well, one thing I just wanted to mention as we start to talk about the public engagement component here is that MVTA is very committed to the solicitation and consideration of feedback from the public. So this is something that's very important to us. And when we're completing projects like the County Road 42 BRT, it's important to understand the needs and opinions of people that this project has the capacity to benefit and impact. So ultimately, we feel that that feedback can not only empower residents, but it can also uncover unmet needs in transit that could be appropriate for projects like this to improve. So ultimately, that feedback does nothing but benefit everybody. So our goal here is to really maximize opportunities for residents and stakeholders to voice their ideas, and then for us to be able to utilize that input to drive our project thoughts, considerations, and then the overall design. So to give you a little bit of background here, the project was actually initiated in June of 2022, and it's included just a couple of phases actually of engagement. So the first phase began, as you can see here, in early 2023, and it was initially looking to just kind of share introductory information about the project and then understand people's travel patterns. So how they were going along the corridor, what destinations that they were desiring. And staff were able to use a couple different ways to gather that input. So they were using surveys, postcards, maps. We did pop-up events. We did some virtual open houses too, just to convey that information and be able to obtain feedback. So ultimately, the feedback that we got from that, those analyzed responses, they indicated that individuals were interested in bike and pedestrian safety. They were interested in connections to other routes, decreasing the congestion along the corridor, and then more frequent service stations that stop along key locations. And so those key locations that people wanted to focus on are things like retail, grocery stores, and then obviously locations where jobs might be situated. And people were also hoping for more real-time signage that could showcase information about destinations and arrivals. They wanted to know information about security enhancements, that those were going to be a part of the project. And then they also had mentioned heat at our shelters too. So that leads us to today. We are actually currently in phase 2 of the engagement process. So we're conducting that second round of engagement currently. And this section of our study, we're actually hoping to continue to improve that awareness. That's still something that's important to us. But we're actually specifically focusing now on understanding the overall alignment preferences. So we're getting feedback about those station locations, where they're located, and what people are looking for. So like Grace talked about earlier, MBTA is currently evaluating an alternative alignment, and this alignment would serve Fairview Ridges Hospital in Burnsville. And so as a part of that evaluation of station locations, we are working to understand from the hospital employees and patients what their needs look like and if this makes sense. So we're really seeking feedback from those specific locations too. Our project website has been updated. There's a lot of information on there right now that has details about this project. It has an interactive map where you can encourage commentary to be added on there. It gives you an overview of BRT. There's a survey that is very, very quick to answer, so I would encourage you all to do that. There's also a PowerPoint that's self-directed, so people can actually go through that at their leisure and they can better understand the project and what we're hoping to do with it. To bolster some of those survey responses, just wanted to give you an update on that. We have boosted our online advertisements through social media. So currently we have almost 150 responses just from those boosts, which is great. We also have found pop-up events to be extremely effective. So for example, we recently hosted a pop-up at Burnhaven Library. They were excellent hosts. We were very grateful. And we were able to talk with quite a few individuals about their preferences, and I think that it was a very effective engagement for us. We're hosting another pop-up at Apple Valley Transit Station. That's going to occur on Thursday. And we are actually finalizing a couple more dates at Cub Foods and Savage, and then also with the library in Apple Valley too. Want to mention that we did this week do a drop-off of literature to the city halls that are impacted by this project along the corridor. So we did stop by, drop off some surveys, as well as informational flyers. I did bring some along for you all. They are at City Hall, but I brought some that I will leave here for you. You can see that we have a double-sided flyer that has information on those stations in the alignment, as well as information about BRT as a whole. And then we have the survey document too. Both have QR codes where you can go directly to that project website. And then I also think it's important to mention that we did a couple translated versions. So we have one in Somali and we have another in Spanish. Again, that accessibility of demographics is crucial for us. We want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to be able to take this survey and has the opportunity to provide their input. So that is something that is a focus for us. We are always looking for ways to improve and strengthen that engagement. So please let us know if you have connections or if you have suggestions that we could use for further outreach. Please share that. And also even just sharing this survey, sharing the project website with your connections and networks, I think that that is very beneficial to the community as well. I want to mention that the QR code is up on the screen. It is included in this PowerPoint. That will take you directly to the project website. So if you scan that with your phone, you can pop on in there and you'll be able to see all of that information. A lot of it is the information that we were able to provide today. So you can keep learning about it. So as you can see, we have a timeline that's listed up here on our schedule, and we are currently in the process of sharing those station locations and the alignment with the public and the stakeholders like we had mentioned. And this feedback, we're expecting to conclude that at the end of April. And following the analysis of those feedback responses, the consultants at Kimley Horn and MBTA staff are going to be developing and reviewing recommendations that will ultimately be shared with the MBTA board and the public. So again, I just can't emphasize enough that not only are we really soliciting that public feedback, but also making sure that we are transparently sharing this information with them too. That overall process, we're anticipating it to be completed by June of 2024. So as you can see, we are kind of in the process of finishing up this project right now, but we're very excited to be able to share that information once it's completed. We did also just want to provide some contact information for you here too. If you have questions or you have suggestions or recommendations, one of the things that my role is really focused on right now is developing and cultivating those relationships with these communities so people feel a comfort level to provide that feedback. So if there are suggestions that you have, we do want to genuinely hear that, whether it's about the service that MBTA is providing or it's about, the addition of bus stops or amenities. Please email us, call us anytime. We provided the customer service information up there, but I will also leave my business cards and you are welcome to contact me too. With that, I will open up for questions, or Luther might want to add anything.
Don't have no questions.
Okay.
That's a family, as I like to say.
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and giving us the information. Questions? Yes, Dan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate you coming in. This started back in December, I think, some conversations, and then furthered in January at our half-day work session where bus benches versus bus shelters came up. And so that's my first of three questions for you. Can you enlighten us on plans or how you determine when a bench needs to turn into a shelter, and any future plans in the city of Burnsville where there are benches that are going to be shelters?
Very good question. Benches, it's always something, it's a little unique to this, I think to this region, that the transit authority necessarily doesn't have control or a lot of communication when it relates to benches. They're really sold by a third-party advertiser, a bench company who puts those benches in, I guess, in communication with the particular city. We don't necessarily have a great relationship as far as getting any data back, as far as utilizing that. In some places, we do have shelters, we have shelters close to benches. In other places, we don't have. We might have service on that particular route that the bench happens to be there, but we don't have it. There's no metrics for us to say, okay, there's people like we do our stops, because obviously we have stopover ridership. We don't currently have benches in our GIS system where we're able to go and pull that data, determine, because they're not our benches. It's something that we could definitely look at in the future to see if we can get some data, but right now it's always been this missing link. Benches are there and we have shelters there. That's what we communicate from a customer standpoint, where they see that gap. The best thing I think is always to give us a contact to customer service, reach out to myself or Joya, and we got that. I can talk about how we put shelters in. We have a really good partnership, as a model example, with the city of Eagan. When they have particular different construction projects, they reach out to us and then let us ask us if there's a need for us to, if they'd like to have a pad or a shelter there. We've done a number of those installations with them. They may put the pad in. We'll program, obviously, to put the shelter in. We've also we also get those, obviously, comments from our customers, as well as I think all of our city council members are always able to communicate with that. as possible. Dakota County as well, we used to have, when they do their highway projects, we've had conversations with them as well too, to add pads or add shelters and during that process. So that's really the way we do it. We currently do it now.
Are there any shelters that don't exist today that are in any kind of plans over the next year or two to install in anywhere in the city of Burnsville?
Yes, and we can share that with you next time.
Great. The next one, I actually sent a presentation on MBTA Connect to Matt Collins. Ms. Collins, can you pull that up on the screens for everyone?
That's a very successful program for you,
Very
isn't it?
successful program for us. As the presentation is going up, we've continued to see our on-demand microtransit service started in 2019, and Burnsville is one of the first cities one of the original cities in which we offered this service in. And we didn't offer it in all of Burnsville. Was it the east or the west side of Burnsville? Well, we expanded. We're in Burnsville. We're all of Burnsville now, for the most part. We've continued to see record growth. As of, we're seeing over 400 boardings a day. That's obviously a system-wide in the 5 cities in which we provide the service. It's done extremely well for us. So much so that it was mentioned in the transportation bill as one of the things that are able to be funded by the sales tax. We're having good conversations with the Met Council right now about how much we'll receive of that sales tax allocation to allow us to expand. Moving forward, we want to actually add more service to add it to Prior Lake and Shakopee, as well as we're looking to take our Eagan residents and allow, right now, Eagan service only operates in the city of Eagan. We want to make sure, we want to turn it into an eastern and western hub and allow Eagan residents to travel in Eagan, Burnsville, as well as Apple Valley on one system, and we'd have Shavitz, Prior Lake, and Shakopee with Rosemont and Burnsville in the middle, with Burnsville being the connecting point between the two services, the east and west zone. So we do have really big plans for Burnsville, city of Burnsville, because it is obviously, it's where we have our headquarters, and it's where we see our largest service footprint to date.
Thank you. I don't know if, can they control that, or will they need to let you know to advance to the next slide?
That's the controller.
Oh, great. You may be familiar with this presentation, Luther, but part of the reason I brought this up is some recent discussions that you're aware of. MBTA Connect is, as you noted, is in high demand. We haven't been able to catch the growth. But there's also an education process that even in Burnsville, there may be people who are still not quite familiar with it.
Instead of calling Uber or Lyft, they could call MBTA Connect.
Yes, and there's actually some data in the slide program that'll address that for folks who, before MBTA Connect came around, that's who they called. But it is something that is an ongoing education. It's a marketing challenge to get the word out. MBTA doesn't have a $100 million marketing budget to spend on TV and radio and print and digital ads to promote this, obviously. So this is an opportunity to help the public get educated about this service that's been around since 2019, but started very small with some spare parts and now has grown into some bigger things. So with that, I'll let you take over.
So our MBTA Connect is microtransit, and briefly, it's an app-based on-demand service. So customers are able to go onto an app, which we have a microtransit app for Connect, and book their trips, same way they would do on an Uber, and same way they would do similarly to Uber and Lyft. It's $3 each way and operates 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., and that's Monday through Sunday. The benefit is it's bi-directional. Let's see this one. So the origins of this, where we understand, just giving a little bit, this actually started in one of our sister agencies in Southwest Transit. It's one of the first to bring microtransit in this region and really in the country as well. It started from a conversation they had out in Silicon Valley on map-based. The precursor to microtransit was some flex route service like that in the Dollar Ride, but as you know, it didn't have the reach this has because it's app-based. One of the good things, and it's technology driven, so we don't have a scheduler, there's no scheduler, it's all done on the app. Customers do have the ability to do walk-ups, so we have our buses that are staged at Burnsville Transit Station as well as Apple Valley and Eagan Transit Station. So you happen to see a Connect bus there, and it's always good to go back, see one of our smaller buses, they can walk right up and request a ride right on site with the operator. That's something we do make sure we need to communicate a lot more, so I don't think customers understand that as much, that they can walk up and operator will book a ride for them. it traditionally works in really suburban markets, suburban and rural markets, because what you continue to have is you have these places where we don't necessarily have great sidewalk connectivity, as well as you have developments like Costco. In this sense, but you have really, it's really difficult, obviously. We can get our bus in Walmart with some challenges, but we may not be able to run some fixed route service to the door of Costco due to the traffic. So you have smaller buses that are able to provide that level of service, that pick up and drop off, the place that may be a challenge, even in smaller, in developments, obviously in our cul-de-sacs accordingly. Senior centers, it does give more of a direct service, and it also helps obviously from a safety standpoint as well as a mobility standpoint. Everyone is also able to utilize this service, which is very beneficial. One of the biggest barriers that I see when I go out and communicate it is a lot of individuals, when they see those small microtransit connect buses, they think it's only for the disabled and the elderly, because that's traditionally what you see utilizing the other demand response services. And I always communicate, no, anyone can use it. I just had a conversation at the Dollar Tree. Almost one of my favorite places to be. And I was like, you can take Connect if you can. She didn't know it was available to her. So I gave her my card, gave her the information, said, I'm going to start using that to get to work. So there definitely is a knowledge transfer. We have the education component. What we continue to see on this particular service, and my eyesight is not as good as it used to be. It's the last mile, so we're going to paraphrase these. But I do want to talk about, you kind of see the coverage map here. And one of the benefits of why Connect was so important to us is when you have suburban local service and suburban communities, there's a lot of areas we don't serve well. We may have hour frequency. Our standard is trying to get half an hour frequency, but some of our routes, we only have hour frequency. We may not have any midday service. So how do you get to your job if you don't meet those particular times? Connect obviously operates between 6 and 9 as needed based on the demand of our customers. So that's a benefit there for some of the places where we don't have good frequency or no service at all. Just to give an idea of, I talked about when it started, we know about the growth. I mean, it did grow quite a bit from 2021 to 2022. What we've seen was a leveling of the growth, not because we didn't have the demand, because we didn't have the vehicles. We first started our service, we were looking at to keep our waits below 30 minutes. Our ideal was a 20-minute wait. We have now exceeded due to demand. We do have opportunities, there's peak times in which we've had customers wait for over 2 hours. We knew that was unacceptable. The issue was we couldn't get available buses. We've added 8 new buses or 7?
5.
Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. I thought it was more. We have 5 new buses that we added to the fleet, but they're expansion buses in the existing community, and we've seen our wait times go down. And as we see more available equipment, we'll be able to actually provide more rides and more timely service. To understand why we're a little bit different than Uber and Lyft, I don't know if it's on the next slide or not. I don't want to talk about the vehicles. I really want to talk about what is the app? I don't get too ahead of it. So it's about who we serve. 50% of our customers are our biggest book of customers. I actually have this written down here, which is interesting. So 69% of our customers utilize our Connect service to get to work. So that's really beneficial. That's really a good. Understand that 50% of them would say they'd use Uber and Lyft if Connect wasn't available. But here's where a little different. Why it's really a public service. 1 in 5 of our Connect riders has an annual income of under $15,000. Now, as we know, we priced as a typical suburban trip at the time, and there's about $35 we've seen in the suburban community. A customer's making under $15,000 a year, going to work, needing a trip twice a day, is not able to afford that. So this really fits that public transit lifeline need.
If you advance 4 slides, those data points are.
Or is it there? Good, because that's the one I want to get to.
Next one, there you go. That's where it
It's been a long
starts.
time for me here. And last but not least, 50% of our customers are riders are people of color, 50% of riders are women. And I was always talking about the age demographic dynamic here. 33% of our riders are 35 to 44, and 21% of our riders are 45 to 54. So what you have is over 50% of our riders is about that 35 to 54 standpoint, and that bodes well for the workforce standpoint. So we know we have a lot of growth to do, obviously, in our under 34 that don't see this service as available for them in order to get to work, and that's why it's really these communication actually helps us and get that messaging out. Do you have any questions? I think that kind of, the future is now, this is when we did the electric vehicle pilot. We are looking, experimenting with some alternative vehicle types. We are in conversations right now with an autonomous vehicle provider hoping to line some pricing up that would allow us to implement some autonomous vehicle in our service area. As well as last year, we were the only first in the nation to demo this electric bus. When it comes to what we call our cutaways or small buses, there currently really is no electric options right now for those buses. That actually bus came from Germany. It's the #1 selling diesel bus in Europe, and they're breaking into they were breaking in and testing in Europe, North American market, and we had the demo bus out. We're pleased to say we see they are now selling them now, it looks like, so we're going to start having some conversations about maybe electrifying some of our fleet in the future as funding becomes available.
Could you comment on the weight of that vehicle and why that does actually pretty well in snow in our test in the winter?
Okay, so we have tested some electric vehicles, and in the past, what we were promised necessarily wasn't what was delivered, because it's still an experimental technology. I mean, we all understand how cars are evolution. Same thing with electric vehicles. That thing is a couple tons. And what we found, it was front-wheel drive, so we thought, well, how's this going to do in the snow? And this was a couple years ago when we actually had snow, so it wouldn't have been beneficial this past winter. And what we found was it handled extremely well due to the weight. In icy conditions. We had where we pulled off all of our Connect vehicles and even some of our buses. At that time, our maintenance manager wanted to take it out to see how it handled, and it handled extremely well. And we went out, obviously, during some inclement weather. And our driver feedback was, other than the fact that the seat was a little bit too small, driver feedback was very positive on that particular, on riding that bus. There was a lot of positive feedback. And the battery life was pretty. We were able to get 250 miles on one charge. It charged with a regular D2 charger. The average at that time, the average Connect vehicle in the course of a day does about 150 miles. So we would be able to essentially do our workload on one battery charge. So it had a lot of different. At the time, it was very, very impressive vehicle type. We were just hoping they would start selling them in the United States. We were able to procure them. So it looks like we may be on the cusp of having some conversation with them if the price point meets what we're able to.
Did you say that was made in Germany?
No.
Similar weather conditions.
I'm sorry, it was Turkey too as well. So during that particular time, the big earthquake that happened in Turkey a couple years ago, we had the bus at that particular time. Nice. It was interesting how we're all connected. You know, it was definitely affected the vendor, but we did have some good conversations, some good feedback there. Germany's one of the main customers. There was some that was done there, but it was quite a good bus.
Last point, Luther hit on, which I thought this slide was a good transition to the autonomous vehicle, which I shared with the council, but this is the first time it's going to be talked about publicly. That if that goes through and the partner is very interested, and it looks like there's a lot of things happening that are falling into place that are going to allow this to happen. The possibility exists that we would be able to debut those vehicles during the Burnsville Festival weekend, Friday and Saturday, when we have bus service from a Burnsville Transit Station, bring folks into the festival. I don't want to divulge the name or any else, but confidence is pretty high that this will happen. It's going to help our microtransit fleet with 5 more vehicles at a time when we really need more vehicles to keep our service up and be able to reduce the wait time that we're experiencing, which got a nice boost with the 5 vehicles. But as I understand, most of that was replacing vehicles that were in the garage a lot and not on the road. So we didn't net more vehicles on the road as much as we'd like, but this will help that. But pretty excited about the possibility of really helping that. Those 5 vehicles will be a net add to our service for MVTA Connect. So. Awesome.
We're going to go back to your bus rapid transit on 42 because I don't know if there's any other questions because we sort of sidetracked over to the MBTA Connect. But you wanted questions on all of that. So one of the things that I'm concerned about, if we have shelters, bus shelters. When we talked with the Costco folks that were here, you heard about the wind, the cold, and all of that. If there are going to be shelters along the way. The other thing that I would like to see is that there are trash receptacles, so they're not littered around. That's not the Burnsville standard. And if you want to know where the benches are, because they're supposed to be where the bus stops are, in one of the work sessions we had, and I think they get all, the bus benches get their permits from the clerk's office. And so they should share that information with you, because they shouldn't be having benches just littering the community and it's not a bus stop, without concern around all of that. But if you're doing this bus rapid transit along 42, I think that's really a great service. It's needed, just like your microtransit has been needed for a long time. I remember when I was on the board, it was something, especially with the reverse commute. So this commute on 42, when you're looking at how you're going to design that transit service, think about your shelters for people along the way, and also trash receptacles, and who's going to be in charge of taking care of them.
Excellent point. And with BRT, it's a higher level of shelter. It's a higher level shelter. In the presentation that we focused on the walk-up stations on Cedar Avenue as well as our Apple Valley, that's what we're talking about. It's much more enhanced due to the outward fare payment. There'll definitely be trash receptacles. There'll be more of a durable structure, if not a little, as far with heat and all the many associated real-time information. Nothing even remotely close to what we currently offer today, but very similar to what you would find in some of the BRT projects that the Metro Transit around and also around the country, what you see on the BRT platform. Because of more frequent service, you do have more customers at those particular stations. It does warrant a higher level of, I would say the shelters that we have today are a byproduct of the funding that we had available, but they're definitely not something that we espouse to even our existing bus stops. It's not something we espouse to have 5 years from now, and because we're doing a new shelter design, and definitely it's not something we'll ever see if we put a BRT or an upgraded level of service in. It's just they're not where we want to be.
Okay, good, because I walk, especially along the summer, and then like on one of my routes is at the Parkway, and we have stops there, and then I see trash around benches. So we need to take care of that, and also on Travelers Trail when I'm going to the east, and that's a really highly, I think that's high demand on Travelers Trail, especially with all of the apartment buildings along there. So you see trash there too, so. But I think those are some of the things, and I don't know if you, do we share where the benches are with MBTA?
I'm sure that we can.
Yeah, because you need to know that. Because one of the concerns that we had was having these benches littering the city, but they're not a bus stop. And they're supposed to be.
Definitely make sure we have some good synergy there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we do. I know they're pretty close, like I said, but I think it's about us taking the data, putting it in our system, tracking this accordingly. I think the missing link is when that bench goes and becomes a shelter. You know, think that's where that's the piece we'll need to refine in the future, and we can work on that. Or if we need to put a shelter near that particular bench.
Yeah. Tell me about your reverse commute. All of you are on demand. When you have people coming in from Minneapolis, then they take the connect to where they need to go.
The 45.
Like a lot of the people who work over at Collins Rockwell.
Yeah, our Route 45 is one of our 45 is one of our best when it's going to suburb really is a reverse commute service. Mall of America, Burnsville. That's been that ridership even during the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, we've seen over 100,000 people are utilizing that service a year. Right now, we're almost about 85,000, trending up. We're trending up to get back to pre-pandemic level ridership there. That was always strong because of who it serves. All of our local, across the board, our local, suburban local service, due to the higher we see in demand, really what we've seen was this decrease, and we always knew it was there, we just didn't have the funding to provide it. We do have quite a number of needs for local service, for suburban local ridership supports that, as well as we continue to see for our Connect, the demand that we see on that as well too.
Yeah. Well, because I was on the board from 96 to 2011. And, there was so much that we needed to do, but it's all about the money, right?
Yes.
So it's good to see that the microtransit system is up and running and that it can help with the reverse commute. And then also the bus rapid transit is a new service that you're providing. So, great work. Any questions? Any? Yeah, Kara?
Les, a question, and I had a couple of residents reach out and just want me to relay this. I realize that you do not set the fares.
Yeah.
Like, I realize this. They realize that too, but they did want me to pass on that, they do need to take bus service to go to and from their work. And their work is, their work is supposed to be at a certain number of hours, but oftentimes it will vary. And so instead of getting their 8 hours, they're getting 6 hours. And so when they're taking the bus back and forth, that's ending up being 10% of what they're going to take home for that day. And so their question was, has anyone heard of more means testing for bus ridership, similar to the way that veterans and disabled persons can take the bus for free? And so that's one of the things that they were wondering about, because that 10%, they're saying that is the difference on can they pay for food or do they go to the food shelf? Like that is that slot in their budget.
Definitely. So one of they're available is the TAP program. What I'll make sure I do is I'll get that information over to you to send out to those constituents on the TAP program. The TAP program allows individuals to ride for $1. Based on there are some means testing, some parameters associated with that. That's administered by the Met Council. We used to have a TAP was an office, a sign-up office at Burnsville Transit Station when the program first started. Now they just do everything, I believe it's everything online, but there are definitely some offices available if they're not able to do what they can do over the phone or via internet as well too. But I think that would solve that particular.
Yes.
Hopefully that challenge there. And when it comes to our Connect vehicles, we are installing the go-to card readers on our Connect vehicles as well too. So they're fare cards, instruments that they use on the fixed route, on our fixed route buses throughout the region. They'll also be able to utilize on our Connect vehicles.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, and I would love that information.
Get that over to you.
Thank you for sharing the information with us this evening, and thank you for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
And I will I'll leave some surveys and information for you here, if anyone wants some nighttime reading.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next item is the new legislation regarding tallies of write-in votes. And presenting is our city clerk, Michelle Collins, and deputy city clerk, Erica Henderson. Ladies.
Thank you. Okay, so write-in candidate legislation. Before the 2023 legislation, county, state, and federal offices, well, I should say before 2023, county, state, and federal offices always require candidates to file a request if they want their name to be tallied for write-ins. Before the 2023 legislation for cities and school districts, the cities and school districts automatically tallied that. However, now during the 2023 legislation, now cities are given the option the options are for a municipality to adopt a resolution regarding the count of write-in votes for city offices using two different options. The first option is what county, state, federal offices do is to require a written request from that candidate for their tally the write-ins to be tallied. And this write-in request needs to be done no later than 7 days prior to the date of the election. Option number 2 is to tally the write-ins if the write-ins are equal to or greater than the candidate with the lowest votes. Or option 3 is to do nothing, and we meaning the city, would still continue to tally the write-in. So on a typical election, it takes anywhere from 8 to 12 election judges and over a period of 5 to 6 hours. So this equates to about 50 to 60 hours of staff time to do the tallies. In this example up here, this was actually in a 2016 city election, the candidate received 23,000 votes and the write-ins were 1,100 votes. So with using 8 to 12 election judges over 2 days, and there were 4 3-hour shifts, and that equated to 240 staff hours. The top 2 write-in candidates were anyone else with 56 votes or Mickey Mouse at 25 votes. A survey of our comparable cities was conducted. 17 cities, 9 cities indicated that they would would require the written request. 6 cities indicated that they would automatically do the write-in tallies if the write-ins were greater than or equal to the candidate that received the lowest votes. 1 city indicated that they would still continue to do write-ins, tally write-ins regardless, and 1 city did not respond. So to recap, the 3 options are to have the write-in or the write-in candidate file a request with the city, to do the tallies, count the tallies when it's equal to or greater than the candidate on the ballot with the fewer votes, or do nothing and we'd stay how we are doing it now. Are there any questions?
Up. Don't take it down. Okay.
There it goes.
Council members, what would you like?
I think having the write-in candidates file a request to have their votes tallied is probably the best way to do it. That example you gave us of 1,100 votes and the top votes were 50 and 25 tells me there were a whole lot of names you guys had to tally and put on that thing. And I mean, a serious write-in candidate will request themselves to be tallied. I doubt Mickey Mouse is going to be asking for that.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, Kara?
I would choose only tally if the number of write-in votes equal to or greater than the candidate on the ballot, because there is a time ahead of the election that a candidate would have to request their votes to be tallied, and a write-in candidate could mount a campaign at the last minute.
Yeah.
I would hate for them to not be counted because they missed the window to request. Highly unlikely, highly unlikely, but I think if there is a number of write-in votes that could tilt the election, then it should be counted no matter what. And if there aren't, then I have less of a need for staff to count those out.
Dan Kay?
I would, when this was first presented to me, I felt number 2 made the most sense, but I said 1 or 2 could work. I kind of said whatever staff might be easier for them, because these are nuisance issues that they shouldn't have to spend all those hours dealing with. So it doesn't matter. Both achieve the goal, I think, different ways.
Okay. Vince?
I kind of said the same thing that Dan said, that I would lean back on the clerk's office since they're the ones that are having to do this. And I believe the first option was, I think, preferred. But I also said what Kara said, I don't want to limit ballot access either. But I think anybody that's serious about a writing campaign is probably going to have that set up more than 7 days ahead of time.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen them successful.
Just a clarification.
7
Yeah.
yes.
So on number 2, when you talk about equal or greater than the ballot least amount for a candidate,
Yeah.
so your lowest candidate would not be there, but everybody else out of that 1,100 would have been there. Is that correct?
Yeah, because the second is the fewest votes.
The fewest votes, so the fewest vote is, let's say, was 1.
Right.
The next one is 2. That 2 would have to show up in 2, correct?
I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, it's saying it's greater than the fewest votes. So the fewest vote, if your fewest
Of
vote
the
is 1 and
filed.
everybody else is above that
Oh,
one,
yes.
they're all gonna have to show up. So if you had 900 different write-ins, we'd have to tally every one of those and those show up. The only one that would disappear on number 2 would be the lowest voter,
Yes.
one person.
Michelle?
I think that,
Right.
I'm going to clarify just for a second, Mayor and Council. In option number 2, the only way you would tally the write-in votes is if there were more write-ins than the fewest vote getter on the ballot.
Yeah.
Meaning
So the
name
candidate
ballot,
name
right.
on the
That's what I
ballot,
thought.
if they had 5,000 votes, you would have to have 5,001 votes before we'd have to tally those write-ins. You'd have to have 5,000 exactly before you'd have to tally those write-ins. Now, there could be a situation where where the lowest vote getter only had 100 votes and we had 200 write-ins, and then we would have to tally them all.
Okay, so it's the ones that are actually on the ballot.
On the
in
ballot,
print.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, then I misunderstood that whole thing, all right.
Yes.
Okay. So, council, consensus?
I'm just
Jeff,
gonna
you
say,
got
I have seen write-in candidates purposefully, they mount a last-minute write-in campaign, and typically it's for something like school board, where it's a lower number of votes needed, or they'll do it for like a judge or something like that. And they do a heck of a job on mounting a write-in campaign.
Okay. So what's the direction to staff?
I like number 2 a little better, I think.
Yeah?
I mean, with clarification.
Yeah, now that I've been clarified, if they have to be on the ballot, then
Yeah.
it's.
So only tally if the write-in votes are equal to or greater than the candidate that received the lowest amount of votes.
Candidate pre-printed on the ballot.
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
written
Filed
on-
candidate.
Written in on the
Yeah.
ballot. right.
The writing would have won the
Well, they
election
have to mount a
anyways.
campaign, and everybody has to, because I've seen this, cities that have term limits, and they have to have the name spelled correctly. For
Yeah.
instance,
Yes, they do.
in Rochester Hills, he ran because, and you know him, Brian, but it's Brian with a Y, so it has to be spelled correctly, and people have been spelling it with Brian with an I, and if it's Brian with an I, it's not the same candidate. So who are you voting for?
Well, that's why you get so many different ones, because they may
Yeah.
spell Mickey Mouse 10 different ways, and you know, you get 10
Yeah.
different ballots going in.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are the nuances that I've seen. And I've also seen O'Neill, and how O'Neill is spelled, whether it's O-N-E-A-L or N-O-N-E-N-I-E-L-L-E. So, but if you're going to go with that, then that's what they have to know, that it has to be spelled correctly. And everybody who's going to go in has to spell it that way. Yeah. Okay. So the consensus is only tally of the number of write-in votes equal or greater than the candidate on ballot with the fewer votes. Okay?
Thank
Yes,
you, Madam Mayor
Michelle?
and Council. We'll prepare this for an upcoming consent agenda if
Yeah.
that's agreeable.
Yeah, thank you, because you have to do that resolution. Okay,
We good with consent?
yeah, yeah, okay. Great, thank you.
For
The
all
next-
those people who wanted to get their name published, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to get more than 1 vote. You're gonna have to get a lot of votes.
You're gonna have to get a
Well, if you
lot
want
of
to get
votes.
published, file.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, the next item is, does the council have the, this has to do with council member salaries. And our Human Resource Director is presenting. Mike Tracy,
Yes.
floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor
Can
and
we
Council.
do this every 2 years?
Every 2 years. So this will be maybe the shortest presentation. I'm new, so I guess I don't know, but the shortest since I've been here. But I just wanted to do a quick refresher on the process for amending city council salaries. So just a quick background, per state statute, city council may amend ordinance or increase their annual salaries during an election year only. An increase can be passed by simple council majority. And the ordinance must be adopted before the general election and then goes into effect January 1st of the following year. And then in front of you, we conducted a kind of a salary analysis or compensation study for elected officials in our comparable market cities. And that is available to you in front of you. And I will take any questions or field any questions.
Okay. Council members? Yes, Councilmember Keely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to propose an increase to our council and mayor salary. I'm basing this position not just on inflation itself, but the idea of encouraging future council participation by our residents. We all know the immense responsibility this position carries. It demands countless hours, researching issues, reading background materials, attending meetings, engaging with our residents, businesses, and making decisions that directly impact our city's future. However, I think the current salary for council members presents a challenge. We want to attract the most qualified individuals, those with diverse backgrounds, the ability to turn their phone on vibrate, and a genuine desire to serve our community. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Unfortunately, the current pay often acts as a barrier. Many talented people simply cannot afford to dedicate the necessary time, but it comes at an expense of their financial well-being. So first, we must consider the rising cost of living. Inflation steadily erodes the purchasing power of council member salaries, making it increasingly difficult to dedicate oneself to public service without a lot of personal sacrifice. Secondly, let's be clear, city council work is a robust part-time job. Some weeks, we put in far more than 32 hours, but it's also true some weeks we have less. Typically, there's an off week when the calendar provides a fifth week, and we feel like we've been given a week of PTO, yet we still have council assignments, committee meetings, and reading material and communication. So we may not have a meeting, but we still have obligations. In reality, week in and week out, this job demands long hours, constant communication with the public, and often requires pursuing additional training, attending seminars, committee assignments, meetings, conferences, etc. All that takes time away from our families. And for those who work a full-time job, it takes away some PTO, which also takes away from family vacations. The commitment is not just showing up here on camera 3 times a month. Thirdly, we need to ensure that this position offers a respectable pay scale for the work that it requires. We certainly don't want council members solely driven by financial gain, which at our pay scale and workload, that's quite a stretch to even mention that in the same context. But we also shouldn't expect them to be financially burdened by their civic duty. A fair salary allows individuals and families to consider public service without undue hardship. Now, some may worry about a large pay increase that has bad optics. Let me emphasize that the goal isn't to make this position overly generous. I'm proposing a thoughtful adjustment that acknowledges the time commitment, expertise needed, and the rising cost of living. Interestingly, investing in a fairly compensated city council is an investment in the city's future. It fosters a diverse pool of talented candidates, empowers individuals to dedicate themselves fully to public service, and ultimately attracts the best minds to shape our community's direction. For that reason, I am proposing a council support a salary of $18,000 a year. We are currently at $12,000, and the mayor of $24,000, which is currently at $18,600, I believe. I certainly welcome and respect council perspective. There's another angle to this that has been tossed around here and there. Some years ago, we voted to give ourselves a little stipend for attending meetings. And then we took it away before anyone actually used it because of the Great Recession. So I'm certainly very open-minded to the idea of, that has been modeled by another city, where every 2 years they give the council, they vote on whether the council will receive a cost of living increase, COLA, similar to the employees of the city. The idea behind that is it's just like our salaries. Every 2 years, it comes up for discussion. The council has to decide whether they're going to support it or not. And if they do, then it happens for 2 years, and then they have to take it up again. So it renews, the decision is renewed every 2 years. That may have some merit. I'm certainly open to that. But my proposal tonight is to take our salaries in 2025 to 18,000, and the mayor's position to 24,000.
Okay. Discussion, thoughts? Yeah, the last increase was in
2020.
2020.
What was the increase before that?
14 years.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Did we have an increase in 2008?
No, with the recession, we didn't have an increase.
No, but I mean, when was the last time, we were on for a long time before there was ever a raise to this council. I was on in 2004 and I hadn't seen a raise.
Background says 2020, 2008, and 2006.
Well, they went down to 2007, but that salary is at that rate a lot longer than 2007. We went several years before we finally had an increase, and it took a long time to get there.
And there was one in 2008? I thought it was 06.
No, it was
2007.
2007.
Was that an increase?
January 1,
Was that what
2007.
our salary was in 2007? I don't recall getting that in 2007,
It was-
an increase, because I'm pretty sure I know some people that wouldn't have voted for it in 2007.
Well, I took office in January of 2007, and it was 700.
Yeah.
It must have been voted on in 2006, in that election
I don't-
cycle.
Was it
to be moved
2006?
Up to 700 from whatever it was prior to
I
that.
didn't see that on our list.
Um,
So we were rarely at that for
Yeah.
about 14
Michelle?
years
Yeah,
before there was
14
an
years at
increase.
700.
Yeah. Michelle?
Mayor and City Council, just to clarify, all the council salaries changes that were effective on January 1st had to be voted on in the previous year.
Previous year.
Just
Okay,
like we're
perfect.
voting in 2024 for any changes to be effective January 1st of 2025.
So we went 14 years at one salary before there was
That's
actual,
right.
an actual
That's
increase
right.
again.
Yeah,
Is
that's
what
right.
happened. Meanwhile,
Yes.
things, prices kept going up.
Yeah. Vince?
I don't know. I agree that I think we do need to assess this, but this grid with comparable cities kind of made me pause a little bit. Because that would put us, well, for council salary, well ahead of everybody, and then mayor salary just behind Bloomington. I'm in favor of an increase. So I voted against this last time. No.
Okay. So you're in favor?
I'm actually
And
totally in
Vince,
favor.
you're in favor?
Yep.
Okay. Kara?
Guess my vote.
Pardon?
Just guess my vote.
Hang on, I think I got it.
Wait a minute,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
It's
Can I
right
do
on the
this?
tip of my tongue. I'm kidding. Kidding.
Staff laughed when they brought it up in my one-on-one, and I might have swore.
I wanted to be there when they brought it up to you.
Yeah.
Could we see a video of that? And I respect your opinion
Yeah.
immensely.
I get the argument for this. Like, I do understand the equity argument in making city council a role that can be available for more people to participate in, because otherwise they could not take that time off of work. So I understand the equity argument on it. However, I still see this as as a service to community, and if it was me, the salary would be 0. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. Councilmember Keely, you make some very good points with regard to the increase. And I think the amount of time that we put into it. The other is that it's not an easy job. You really have to do a lot of reading. You have to be engaged and really understand. And the learning curve is very steep. Now, if you want young people to participate, and that's what I'd like to see.
I'm a young person.
Huh?
I'm a young person.
You are the oldest young guy I know.
You are no longer a young person.
Gray hair somewhere over there.
I hate to break
Spilling
it
in
to you,
fat.
Vince.
In your beard, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
You're,
So may I go on? Because it is a commitment, and it is, to your earlier point of how many meetings you have to attend, and you with a young family, how much time you put into it, and then it takes away. It takes away from your family life. So I look at that as well. And it is a job that I look at in terms of we need to work hard at the public trust and making sure that we're transparent, we do the work that needs to be done, and it's done on camera so they see it. So there was a time when we've been very conservative with this council on all of these things, especially with our salaries. And we went for many years where we wouldn't. And the other is that being transparent, and if we're going to do that, I think right now, council salaries are on the website, correct?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I would have to check on that, I'm not sure.
No.
Yeah, Michelle?
Mayor and council, the council salaries are in the city code.
In the
On
city
the
code,
website.
on the website.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I knew that it was published.
Somewhere, right?
So somehow, if we want to do that, because the city manager, police chief, and fire chief salary are on the website.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, state statute requires all cities in the state of Minnesota to publish their 3 highest salaries for a short period of time at the beginning of the year. And to the city clerk's point, and back to the background information, your salaries are established by ordinance and therefore published in the city code.
Yeah. So I would support this.
Thank you. I think it's worth noting, I don't think any of us on this council
Are here because
are here because the salaries. I'm thinking, I've been on here for 18 years. I'm thinking down the road. I'm thinking, how do we get more Vince Workmans interested in running for this position? Well, I'm just using that as an example, but I'm not saying.
I mean, come on.
It's the nicest thing he's ever said to me.
Young people.
That it needs to be enough to make a difference to help offset the sacrifice and the financial burden that could be caused by day jobs, right? And because this job is built around full-time day jobs. We don't meet at 9 in the morning as full-time jobs like the county commissioners or state employees do or state legislators, because it's a different job. This is a part-time job built around a person's full-time Monday through Friday workload, or it could be even a second shift or an overnight shift. Right, so that's why we're always having meetings when people are at home, watching us on TV now, thankfully. But I'm hoping that this is a step in the right direction to help set up better attraction and better recruitment for the next 10 or plus years for future candidates. Because I know the mayor will still be here 15 years from now, or 20, but I won't. I don't think I will. But the rest of us, Vince will, because he's so young, he's going to be here for.
Vince is like.
Yeah. Okay. The staff have the consensus of the council? Okay, on this item? Okay, very good. Thank you. And now we go to roundtable. And roundtable, I had asked, and I have spoken about it, not only at a work session, but also at our last council meeting, that I would like for us to have, to direct staff to put onto our work session, where we have all of the background for what has transpired with council members serving on festival boards, because at the beginning, when it started, Charlie, and I remember exactly, and Charlie was with the Rotary at the time, and there was a request for, from the Rotary, not the Rotary, but the fire muster, with regard to, I think it had to do with,
I think it was a loan.
huh?
I think it was a loan the city gave the fire muster.
Yeah,
Charlie ended up on that board.
and Charlie spoke to his frustration as someone who was on the board of the Rotary Club. And so that was the time that we said, okay, then we would need a liaison if we're going to do that, and it was using city money, that we needed someone on as only a liaison. And Charlie would say, yeah, I will be the watchdog, if you remember that. Liz Workman would remember that. Wasn't a person to do that. So what I would like is for us to have that discussion at a work session with all of the background materials from when that all started. And I believe it started back in 2007.
Charlie came back with a recommendation to start providing services for the festivals after we're serving on that
Yeah.
board, and that's how we got into the whole legacy
And
thing.
I would like that discussion to.
That's why I remember, because it was Charlie saying it.
Well, he didn't like it, but he didn't like, Charlie didn't like to spend money that wasn't part of the budget. Because he always thought, as I did back then, was a want, and at that time, and he was adamant about the public's money.
Well, he was, but he came back, he thought the festival was important enough that the city get involved with it and help with services, and then he also included the other festivals that we had going at the time, and that's how we ended up with
But at
our
the same
group of
time,
festivals.
he wasn't a voting member, he was the watchdog.
He was the watchdog that came back and saw the value of helping these festivals be successful
But
in the
I'd
city
like
of
to have
Burnsville.
that discussion with all of the background materials so that we're open and transparent. And so I'm asking you to,
I'm willing to have a discussion. I was there for most of all these 20-some meetings we've had on these festivals, so.
yeah. And then you can see the reason why it's very important to me. We just talked about being transparent with all of this. And we have a job that we are stewards of the public's trust.
I think we've been transparent, Madam Mayor. I mean, everyone knows we're on boards. We talk about it openly.
Yeah.
There's no secret thing going on when we talk about the different boards we serve on.
But
So
it's when you
there's
come in and ask
transparency
for
there.
money.
There's
That's the
transparency
thing,
there.
when you ask for money and you have the power to vote on those things, on the people's money.
I get it. People in this room ask for money for several things sometimes and get it.
Yeah.
Not just festivals, so.
Yeah. But this is what I'm talking about. It's being these festivals, and it's just been a slippery slope ever since then. So I hope that you would agree to have this on a work session with all of the background materials. And then I'd also like to have the attorney chime in on this as well. Vince, are you okay with having it on a?
Yeah, I'm not on any boards, so
Yeah.
I'm happy to have the discussion.
Okay.
Should we change that?
Just got off the board.
We can get you on that one.
I'm always happy to have a open and transparent conversation about all of our volunteer work. I mean, that's no problem.
Yeah. But it's the problem for me is when we come in and ask for money, and we have the power, that the people trust us with that power over their money. That's my concern. So, do I have consensus to put it on a work session?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm good with
absolutely.
it, sure.
Yep.
Okay, so it's on a work session, and then we can have all of the background materials, and people can also see that. Okay. Vince, you have any reports?
Nope.
Dan?
No, our board meeting is actually this week for Experience Burnsville, so we'll be meeting with an expert in hotels this week, so I'm kind of excited. They're going to talk about or kind of where we stand of getting new hotels in our city and what we maybe need to do to get new hotels in the city, so it's going to be an interesting direction. I actually invited Jeff to join us, but he was already tied up. I just found out our agenda today, so but Chris and I will be there, so.
More festivals.
More, oh, that's an idea. Thanks.
Just a thought.
Okay.
You can do that.
Kara?
No, I don't have anything on advisory boards or external organizations other than on the policy board with the state legislature, looking at open meeting laws and changing it to allowing, I believe, half of your meetings for councils and commissions and all that kind of stuff to just be online, and the concern being that residents would not be able to come in and have face-to-face engagement and have kind of a show of numbers in a physical space and be able to address. So that was really about the only thing that was being kicked around at this point, because I know some of the other bills were withdrawn from this session. So yeah, that's really the only thing we were really looking at this point.
Okay.
To keep an eye on, yeah.
Hey, Dan, your MBTA report was already given.
Exactly. I just said my MBTA presentation was my update. Appreciate those folks coming in. It took us a while to get them scheduled because we have a busy schedule, and so do they, but we covered a lot of good stuff, and I'm really glad we, that was I don't know how many months old, that presentation. It didn't have any 2023 data in it on MBTA Connect, so I think Luther did a fantastic job being thrown a presentation that he hadn't seen in maybe 7 or 8 months or more.
He wasn't expected to give.
He was, well, as the executive director, he was very well versed.
He was very well versed, as he should be. I'm speaking next week at the LMC Board of Directors meeting. I've been invited along with Apple Valley Councilmember Ruth Grundall and Mayor Rosemont, Jeff Weisenthal.
Yeah.
I think I messed his last name up, Weisenschel, to talk about our role on the NLC board and our chair, for Ruth and I, the chair of our committees, and encourage cities, towns, and villages around the state of Minnesota to get involved. Last week, I was in our council chambers, I think it was last week. The League of Minnesota Cities sent their media person out, and we filmed a promotional video, which will be played at I think the opening session in Rochester in June at their annual meeting. Basically the same thing, talking about the role, why get involved, what does it bring to the city, how does it help us represent our citizens, further education in our areas of assignments, et cetera. So looking forward to that. And then next week we have our National League of Cities TIS meeting later next week as well. So a lot going on next week. That's it. Thank you. Short, huh? Nice and to the point.
Well, I am pleased to report, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with this, but the middle housing bill is not moving forward.
Yeah, we got notice that that one
Dead and
was.
buried.
Yeah, it's been shelved.
And let me tell you, conversations with Lindsay Port that I had, and also the group of mayors from MLC with the governor, and I think we made a very good case with regard to local control, and that this bill was more about preemption and taking away local control. And one of the other things that happened is a lot of our residents also read about this and also made phone calls about local control and not to take it away from the city council. So that's what's going on with MLC. We still have a couple of things. We're okay with the accessory units because we already have addressed that and we have a better, and I told Senator Port that, I said, look at our ordinance, because I think we have a model ordinance on excessive units. I said, because our public safety vehicles can get to the back, and they also have utilities. And so I said, we have a good ordinance, and I said, take a look at that. The other is that they now are going to be looking at our comp plan, because we have put together, MLC had taken our comp plan and all of our units that we said that we will build. And we're already built out, so a lot of our units. But if you look at what we're doing, even with all of the MFW, MWF, MFW, all of the new units going on at the heart of the city. It's a lot of new units, but I think we're at 20% of those. I haven't looked at that because we didn't have to do any subsidy for any of that. That went through their financing with Home and HUD, and then also some state money. So I don't know, but I think it might be 20% of those units, so the excess. So that's what's, and we had a good meeting with the tax committee on our request to be exempted from taxes.
Sales
material
tax on
taxes.
construction.
Yeah, retail material taxes. So that went well. Now we'll wait and see, because it's an omnibus bill. Is there another bill that we had to, no, that was all the ones that we dealt with. Yeah. Okay. That's all I have.
I just add one more thing.
Yeah.
Wednesday, April 24th is the annual meeting for Metro Cities in
Yeah.
Roseville, for those that would like to attend. And
We'll
Yeah,
be there.
it's up, in Fridley.
at the skate center up in Roseville.
Yeah, and it's, one of these days, they have to bring that meeting south.
Well, I'll mention that to the board.
Yeah. And they never come south of the river. Okay. All right. Greg, anything from staff?
Nothing from
Any
me, Mayor.
additional? Anything else? If not, we stand adjourned by acclamation.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Now I'm gonna go to Costco and pick up my wife.